I'm going to try out my new little camera here. I got this Logitech camera, and I thought that maybe I could film directly onto my computer and therefore have more access to storage space rather than just the low volume that I have on my iPhone. And while I was at it, I thought well, I'd share some thoughts that were on my mind while I was at it. So I was thinking about, while I was driving today, about the the reasons why, maybe an explanation as to why companies, modern day companies, big companies, tend to side with leftists. At least it would appear that way, which would be it's a bit of a quandary at first because you'd think that the leftists tend to not be free enterprise, whereas the right, politically, tends to be more free enterprise. So why would companies that are deemed to be in the free market want to side with that which would want to steal from it? And I think the easiest explanation of this has to do with profit. It has to do with fundamentally that companies, business enterprises, are there to make a profit. 100%. There's almost, in spite of what they might say, almost no ethics involved there. Some of you are familiar with that book that I talked about not long ago. I think it's called the 48 Laws of Power, I believe, by this guy, Robert Greene, I think his name is. And the whole thing is about how to manipulate people, basically, to do what you want them to do. And this is what, if it's just purely profit that's there, then to get yours in any way that you can is the way to go. And so therefore, companies, people in business, if they see the way the wind is generally blowing, that's the way they're going to go. And so far, for the last, for about 100 years, leftists have been winning, right? I mean, they get their way every time because they will use these laws with complete lack of regard for any sort of morality or ethics. And meanwhile, they know that certain people have morality and ethics, and therefore they'll pretend to have in order to cajole them into doing what they want them to do. And companies see this. Companies see who's the winning side, and if you're going to make a profit, you better be on the winning side. On the flip side, if you see people who appear to not be as profit driven, they will give up their careers in search of an ideal, say, then what they have is they have fundamental governings, self-governance within, which even though they have an ideal to shoot for, they will not shoot for it at any cost. In other words, there's limits to what they will do internally, right? Whereas the companies, there's limits to what they will do based on the external wind. Whereas people who have like an ideal that is morally based will not be pushed around by the wind of the current social climate. If they think something is wrong, no matter how many people are saying it's wrong, it's right, they won't buy into it. And therefore, we see this dichotomy, and that's what we're really seeing in terms of the schism and of the split that's taking place in the world, where it seems like there's two factions that are lining up for something, who knows what. It's because the leftists, with their lack of principles, internal governance, it's whatever goes, as you keep on pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope. And there's those who say, no, this is outside my realm, and I won't go for it. But this is nothing new. This is throughout history, right? I mean, the governors of the world and those who want to control others will push and push and push and push until somebody finally pushes back and it starts the cycle over again. So I think that's maybe getting to some of the ideas as to why otherwise deemed to be free enterprise entities and free enterprise individuals who become extremely wealthy, why is it they seem to lack any sort of moral basis? In other words, they can be swayed off of what they believe. I think it's because they, suck their finger and put their finger up in the air and see where the wind's blowing. And then to go against that means lack of profit, say. Whereas following the wind at the time is where the profit is. Now, if the wind switches around through, verbal or otherwise revolution, then they'll just switch. But because they have no moral compass, they only have a goal, which is their profit. Whereas those who also have goals and have a moral compass, they will not just follow the wind. They're going to follow their internal compass. So what can we learn from this? I guess, well, we can certainly learn from even those who follow their profit. I mean, it's like the profit potential, rather. Because we can do a lot of that if we have a moral compass. It's just that we it's like a governor. At times we'll say no, right? But all of those strategies, even in those 48 laws of power, most of them are applicable to anybody. It's just that some people will use them just completely as manipulation, and others will use them when there's no manipulation involved, just as a way of propelling themselves, right? And if it's not harming anybody, or at least there's no way that they can see it's harming anybody, then they can do it, So as long as we know why we're doing something, and it's helping our ideal, and it's not violating our morality, then we're good to go, I would say, for the most part. Steve here, great chatting. I hope this works out well. I hope the sound quality is okay. Might have to do something with the mic. Otherwise, I'll give it a try, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.